Hello students, welcome to English class. Today we'll be doing the lesson Taro's Reward, Unit 3. Children, it is a moral duty of us to take care of the elderly, is it? Being a responsible person, we should know how to take care of old people. Our parents or elders sacrifice their golden days with a smiling face in shaping our lives, is it? So during their old days, they also want support, love, and care from us. So it's our duty to provide assistance to them during their old days. But unfortunately, today's youth are seen ignoring their moral duties. Some youths consider their parents as a burden for them and prefer to keep them in old age homes. Today we are going to study the lesson Taro's Reward. In this lesson we can see Taro, a young woodcutter who tried to fulfill the wish of his father. Okay, so let's read the lesson. Please take page number 31. Taro's Reward. A young woodcutter named Taro lived with his mother and father on a lonely hillside. All day long he chopped wood in the forest. Though he worked very hard, he earned very little money. This made him sad, for he was a thoughtful son and wanted to give his old parents everything they needed. One evening, when Taro and his parents were sitting in a corner of their hut, a strong wind began to blow. It whistled through the cracks of the hut and everyone felt very cold. Suddenly, Taro's father said, "I wish I had a cup of sake. It would warm me and do my old heart good." This made Taro sadder than ever, for the heart-warming drink called sake was very expensive. "How do I earn more money?" he asked himself. "How do I get a little sake for my poor old father?" He decided to work harder than before. So children, here this lesson tells us about a beautiful story of a devoted son, Taro. Okay, Taro was a woodcutter. He lived with his old parents. So he does not earn a lot and it upsets him as he wanted to give his parents the best life. So one day in the evening, they were sitting inside their hut. A strong wind began to blow. It whistled. Whistled means it's passing through, making a whistling sound. Cracks refers to narrow gaps or opening. So the wind began to blow through the cracks of the hut. So because of that, everyone inside the house was feeling very cold. As it was cold, Taro's father had a wish. What was the wish? He had a wish to drink a cup of sake. Okay, sake means it's a very costly drink in Japan. Then what happened? Taro was very sad. Why? Because he understood that sake was a very expensive drink and his father wishes to have a sip of that. So how he could earn money for buying this sake, he asked himself. Okay, he understood that his father needs some sake, so he doesn't have money to buy that. So he decided to work harder. Next morning, Taro jumped out of bed earlier than usual and made his way to the forest. He chopped and cut as the sun climbed, and soon he was so warm that he had to take off his jacket. His mouth was dry and his face was wet with sweat. My poor old father, he thought, if only he was as warm as I. And with that, he began to chop even faster, thinking of the extra money he must earn to buy the sake to warm the old man's bones. So, what happened here, children? Here we can see that Taro, in the next morning, Taro jumped out of his bed earlier than usual. He just went to the forest, chopped and cut a lot of trees as the sun climbed, and soon he was so warm that he had to take off his jacket. So when the sun was up, he he felt very warm, okay, very hot. So he removed all his jacket. He started to cut the trees from early morning. Okay, so when it was almost by the time of middle of the day, he felt warm, so he removed his jackets. He was wet with sweat. Then he thought that my poor old father, he should be also warm like this, is it? Because that man was feeling very cold. You know, old people will always feel cold, is it? And they will always, when it is raining heavily or in the winter seasons and all, they always feel cold. So Taro was just thinking, my father could have been warm just like me. He was always thinking about his father. Okay, then with this thought, he began to chop even faster, thinking of the extra money he must earn to buy the sake to warm old man's bones. So he was working hard from the morning, cutting wood. Then suddenly Taro stopped chopping. What was that sound he heard? Could it be possibly be rushing water? Taro could not remember ever seeing or hearing a rushing stream in that part of the forest. He was thirsty. The axe dropped out of his hands and he ran in the direction of the sound. So here, children, what happened? He heard water flowing sound. Okay, rushing stream. So he was just thinking there was not a stream nearby, but he was confused. Why? There's a sound of rushing water. Hmm? Then Taro could not remember ever seeing or hearing a rushing stream in that part of the forest. And he was also thirsty. So he just dropped his axe and he ran in the direction of the sound. Taro saw a beautiful little waterfall hidden behind a rock. Kneeling at a place where the water flowed quietly, he cupped a little in his hands and put it into his lips. Was it water or was it sake? He tasted it again and again, and always it was delicious sake instead of cold water. So, children, what happened here? He heard the sound of a stream and he just went there. He saw a little waterfall hidden behind a rock. He knelt and took a handful of water and put it into his lips. He just tasted it and found that it was not plain water, but it was that delicious, expensive sake. Taro quickly filled the pitcher he had with him and hurried home. The old man was delighted with the sake. After only one swallow of the liquid, he stopped shivering and did a little dance in the middle of the floor. So when Taro understood that the water was not a plain water but sake, He filled the pitcher. Pitcher means the pot, usually, which is made of mud. So he quickly filled the pitcher he had with him and hurried home. So when the old father, when he drank this sake, he was delighted. Delighted means very happy. Then just after drinking even one swallow of the liquid, he stopped shivering. Okay, he was shivering with cold, is it? I have already told you in the beginning of the lesson, as it was a winter season. So he just drank even a single swallow and he stopped shivering. Because of happiness, the old man danced in the middle of the floor. That afternoon, a neighbor stopped up by for a visit. Taro's father politely offered her a cup of sake. The lady drank it greedily and thanked the old man. Then Taro told her the story of the magic waterfall. Thanking them for the delicious drink, she left in a hurry. By nightfall, she had spread the story throughout the whole village. That evening there was a long procession of visitors to the woodcutter's house. Each man heard the story of the waterfall and took a sip of the sake. In less than an hour, the pitcher was empty. So what happened, children? That afternoon, a neighbor came to visit Taro's father. So as usual, when somebody comes as a guest, we give them good food, is it? So here, this lady came to Taro's house. So Taro's father politely gave her a cup of sake for drinking. The lady drank it greedily because this is a very expensive thing. It's not easily available. So when she got it, she drank it greedily. Greedily means desiring for more and more. She thanked the old man. Then Taro told her the story of the magic waterfall. Okay, here you can see that Taro didn't hide this secret from other people. He just told this to this lady. Then what happened? The lady thanked them for the delicious drink and she just left in a hurry. So by nightfall, the story of sake and the waterfall was spread throughout the whole village. So that evening there was a long procession. Procession means queue of visitors to woodcutter's house. Everybody began to come to Taro's house. So when each and everybody heard about the story of the waterfall, they took a sip of the sake. Okay, so everybody took one sip from that pitcher, and within less than an hour, the pitcher was empty. Okay, pitcher, all the sake in that pot was completely, taken by each and every visitors of woodcutter's house. Next morning, Taro started for work even earlier than the morning before. He carried with him the largest pitcher he owned, for he intended first of all to go to the waterfall. When he reached it, he found to his great surprise all his neighbors there. They were carrying pitchers, jars, buckets, anything they could find to hold the magic sake. Then one villager knelt and held his mouth under the waterfall to drink. He drank again and again, and then he shouted angrily, "Water, nothing but water!" Others also tried, but there was no sake, only cold water. So here, in the next morning, Taro just started to go to the work even earlier than the morning before, because he had to fill a big pitcher he owned with sake. Okay, so he just took a very big pot and he reached the waterfall. So when he reached there, he was surprised. Why? The whole villages are there. Said all the people in the village, all the neighbors, everybody was waiting there, and they were carrying pitchers, jars, bucket, anything they could find to hold the magic sake. So all the people were carrying big jars, buckets, and pitchers. So one villager just tasted the water and he shouted angrily, "This is not sake, but this is just a plain water." Others also tried, and they also commented that it's only plain cold water and it was not a sake. "We have been tricked," shouted the villagers. "Where is Taro? Let us drown him in this waterfall." But Taro had been wise enough to slip behind a rock when he saw how things were going. He was nowhere to be found. So what happened here, children? When villagers understood that this water is just a plain water, it's not sake, they shouted angrily that Taro should be drowned in this waterfall. Okay, Taro should be killed. This is what villagers said. The same villagers who appreciated Taro, the same villagers who went to his hut and tasted the sake, they just turned the opposite. Okay, when they understood that this water is not sake, they decided to drown Taro. They decided to kill him. Then Taro was observing all this behind a rock, so he understood that it is not safe to stay there. So he just slipped behind a rock when he saw how things were going, and he escaped. Muttering their anger and disappointment, the villagers left the place one by one. Taro came out from his hiding place. Was it true? He wondered. Was the sake a dream? Once more he caught a little liquid in his hand and put it into his lips. It was the same fine sake. To the thoughtful son, the magic waterfall gave the delicious sake. To everyone else, it gave only cold water. So here, muttering their anger, that means speaking unclearly. The villagers were disappointed. They left the place. Once Taro understood that everybody is away, he came out from his hiding place and he just checked. He wanted to make it sure that is it was just a dream or not. So he caught a little liquid in his hand and he put it into his lips. He understood that it was the same fine sake. So to the thoughtful son who was very caring, who was very loving, he was working hard to earn money in order to fulfill the wish of his father. To the thoughtful son, the magic waterfall gave the delicious sake. For the other greedy people, it gave only cold water. The story of Taro and his magic waterfall reached the Emperor of Japan. He sent for the young woodcutter and rewarded him with 20 pieces of gold for having been so good and kind. Then he named the most beautiful fountain in the city after Taro. This said, the emperor was to encourage all children to honor and obey their parents. So here in the end, what we can see, the story of Taro and his magic waterfall reached the Emperor of Japan. Okay, so the Emperor of Japan came to know about this thing, this story. So he sent for the woodcutter and rewarded him with 20 pieces of gold. So Taro was rewarded 20 pieces of gold for having been so kind and good towards his parents. And Emperor also named that beautiful fountain in the city after Taro. So he gave the name of Taro to the beautiful fountain in the city. Why he gave this gift of 20 pieces of gold and he named the beautiful fountain in the city after Taro? Because he wanted to encourage all children to honor and obey their parents. Okay. So what did we understand from this lesson, children? We understand that we should be respectful, and we should always honor our parents. Okay, then if we have good mind and good thoughts, we will be rewarded. Okay, and it's our duty to love our parents and respect them. We should help them. We should try to fulfill the wishes of our parents. So we came to the end of the lesson, children. Thank you.